Hi, and welcome to the Stephan Livera podcast, focused on the economics and technology of Bitcoin. This is episode 56, and today my guests are Max, Keidun, and Roman Snitko, CEO and CTO of Hodl Hodl, a peer-to-peer Bitcoin exchange, and they are also the organizers of Baltic Honeybadger, one of the best-known Bitcoin conferences. Here's the interview. Max and Roman, welcome to the show. I've been quite impressed with some of the stuff you guys are doing with Hodl Hodl.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Stefan.
All right, so guys, let's start with a little bit of background on each of you and why you guys started Hodl Hodl.
Roma, you should say that story. He's a good storyteller.
Yeah, we always do it this way. He says Roma and I do it. Okay, so it goes back to I think 2016 or 15. We worked together at a Bitcoin company, and then we were using local Bitcoins, both of us, and there were a lot of issues with local Bitcoins. The first time I tried it, I almost got scammed. And then when I met Max, he asked me to explain how to use it, and it was like pretty complicated. And it was about the time when I was looking into multi-sig and trying to come up with a better solution for storing Bitcoins, and we realized we can actually build a better exchange that doesn't hold the Bitcoins and still allows people to trade effectively. And essentially, we quit the company and started working, two of us, on Hodl Hodl. And one of our assumptions was obviously that this exchange would have an edge over everybody else, because every other exchange, because it doesn't hold the Bitcoins. But also we realized that local Bitcoins, sooner or later, they're going to start implementing KYC ML policies, which they did. Also there was a chance that because they're holding Bitcoins, sooner or later they're going to be hacked, which they were. We just wanted to build a more secure and easier to use exchange that is also focused on privacy, but at the same time is not as complicated as completely decentralized exchanges such as BISC. So I think that's the backstory of Hodl Hodl.
Sure. And actually, tell us a little bit about your background as well.
So I got into Bitcoin in 2012, and by got into Bitcoin, I mean I started gradually learning about Bitcoin projects out there, about the technology, and eventually I worked on a project that was very similar to BTC Pay. It was called Straight, because it was a payment gateway. And the reason it was called Straight is because Bitcoins went straight into the merchant's wallet, bypassing the central server. I think BTC Pay, as far as I can tell, works the same way. But of course, I didn't have enough resources, and it was just a one-man show, essentially. So just to give you an example, those are the kinds of projects that I worked on. And then I went to work for Mycelium for a little while, and this is how I met Max, and then we quit and started our own thing.
Excellent. And Max, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story as well. I was a banker actually for 10 years. So joined the rebellion, basically. I was a banker for 10 years, and in 2013, one of my clients, he actually introduced me to Bitcoin during one of the meetings. And he mentioned that he showed me how it worked, saying that you can transfer like $10,000 from Russia to Brazil in less than 1 hour, less than 5 cents, and no middleman. You don't need to go and open the bank account, and etc. etc. And I thought the guy was crazy, but I actually started to research the topic, and in 2015, 2 years later, I started researching, started little bit buying and playing with technology around. But in 2015, I understood that there will be no need in banks in the future, because the technology works, and it's amazing how it works. And the same client actually at that point invited me to join his project. So I went from the bank to join the Bitcoin company, and that's how I met Roman. And that's how we started. Like a few months later, we started working on Hodl Hodl. So yeah, that's my story.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, I think one of the key things that listeners will be interested to know is, why is Hodl Hodl different, right? And I think some of the key areas there are just that it's peer-to-peer, there's no KYC. Can you touch on some of the challenges around doing that, but also why that's a benefit for your customers?
I think the Roma, the main difference, like from other exchanges, as I say, we are somewhere in between local Bitcoins and BISC. In that case, as BISC, we use multi-signature technology, so we don't hold any funds. So basically, each time you make a trade, we create a unique multi-sig escrow account on a public blockchain, in that case, Bitcoin. We also have Litecoin, but we prefer the Bitcoin. And we open the escrow account, and that's how all the trades happening, because if you trade through local Bitcoins or through Paxful, something like that, then everything is stored in their wallets. So the escrow technology that they offer is in their wallets. Basically, you trade within the wallets. So that's the security-wise, that's the number one thing. Another thing, we are really, really crazy about UX and UI. As Roma mentioned, during our first experience with local Bitcoins, both of us were a bit struggling with that. And I think, the third thing, which is not so important, but overall, we are way more cheaper than our alternatives. So maybe Roma can add something.
Yeah, so the commission is lower for sure than local Bitcoins or Paxful, albeit higher than centralized exchanges such as Bitstamp, but that's just a natural thing to have on peer-to-peer exchanges. I mean, their commission is higher. But yeah, the main advantage, I think, is that we don't hold the Bitcoins, we don't do KYCML, and not holding Bitcoins is actually part of the reason why we don't do that. So
sure.
Yeah, those are the things, and of course, right now the other project predictions is coming. I'm sure we're going to have a chance to discuss that a little bit later. And I mean, it's pretty unique, in my opinion.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think maybe for the listeners, they might like to hear a little bit more about some of the technical challenges that you have faced in terms of implementing a multi-signature decentralized exchange. Can you talk to those challenges a little bit?
Sure. The multi-sig libraries that we have, there are two parts to them. The backend part and the front-end part written in JavaScript. And those libraries are actually pretty small. So the multi-sig technology in Bitcoin, it's nothing new. It's been around for a while. We just implemented those libraries. But the code that surrounds them, this the user interface, the backend, all sorts of security issues that we need to take care of. That's a lot of work. And I think when people, I've heard some people on podcasts discussing us and saying, "Oh, but what is Hodl Hodl? It's just a multi-sig. This technology has been around for a while." Oh, yeah, sure, but try creating a peer-to-peer exchange using this technology with all the bells and whistles, and it's actually a lot of work. It's actually a lot of issues that you only discover when you start working on them, when you face your users and see them having issues while they trade with other people, because you need to take care of reputation. Um, you need to take care of all the various scams that can emerge when people trade on a peer-to-peer exchange. You have to be aware of them. You have to effectively solve disputes. So yeah, there's like a million problems that centralized exchanges where like day traders trade, they never even see them and they never even face those problems, and we do.
Sure. So, can you talk to perhaps some of the ways that listeners should watch out, to maybe just some tips for them to help avoid scams when they are buying or selling Bitcoin on Hodl Hodl?
I think in general, it's we have a limit, so called, so that we have some we 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 did we are caring about the people who are not familiar with traders, so we made some limits on your first trades. So basically, never trade with riskier payment methods. We have a table of available payment methods with the risk volumes. For example, there are some risky payment methods like PayPal, where you can easily return the payment. So choose a payment method properly, then choose a counterparty properly. Never trade on large volumes or on large amounts with people you're not familiar with traders that don't have any significant reputation, something like that. And well, basically that's it. So choose your counterparty and choose a proper payment method, and then just follow the instructions that are there. So I think these are main two things to look out to avoid being scammed on any peer-to-peer platform, not only the Hodl Hodl.
And can you touch on just the concept around education of new traders in terms of Bitcoin, and actually just talk a little bit around the typical user with Hodl Hodl? Are they typically first-timers to Bitcoin, or are they normally more experienced Bitcoiners?
I think they're mostly more or less experienced. I mean, some of them come from local Bitcoins because they see value in Hodl Hodl. And they see how it actually, I mean, the commission is lower. That's part of the reason they come to Hodl Hodl as well. But I should say, and we constantly talk to those traders privately, right? Like on Telegram channels, educating them and all of that. And it's interesting that some of them don't actually realize that we don't hold the Bitcoins, and we have to, explain to them, and it's weird. I think that's just the state of crypto trading these days. A lot of people trade cryptocurrencies, a lot of people trade Bitcoin, but they don't really understand the fundamentals. And what we're trying to do, we have sections on the website. One section is called screencasts. Essentially, we have a lot of educational screencasts, not just about our exchange, but they also explain how to install Electrum Wallet, how to use multi-sig with Electrum Wallet, things like that. Really, really helpful to people, for people to learn those things, and then they can move on to using our exchange. And we also have a section called Bitcoin Quiz, where you just go through a number of questions about Bitcoin, and you don't have to read long articles about every boring detail, but rather just play a little bit with the quiz and click a couple of buttons and see whether you're right or wrong. And then if you're wrong, it explains to you why you're wrong and what is the correct answer and why is it the correct answer. So I think we're just trying we're not just trying to create an exchange and earn money from commission, but also educate people. That's really, really important.
That's an excellent approach to take. I think it is, even though we are 10 years into Bitcoin, it is still early days. I think another topic listeners might be interested to hear about is just around the trends on the volumes that you are seeing at Hodl Hodl. Max, can you comment on that?
Well, of course the volumes are increasing because, we started precisely 23rd of February 2018 when we launched trading on Hodl Hodl. So of course, during this year, the volumes increased because from the beginning we had zero volumes. And I think the interesting thing in terms of trends is to see how the regions are distributed in terms of traders on our platform and on other platforms. So the most active region at the moment in Hodl Hodl is Russia. Then we have quite active and quite solid presence in Latin America. And of course, Europe also is doing some trades on Hodl Hodl. The interesting thing, and I think Roma can touch about this, about the trends that not recently, but few months ago, we've closed U.S. market for Hodl Hodl. So basically, if you're U.S. citizen, you won't be able to use Hodl Hodl. We did that on purpose due to some security reasons. But the U.S. market was never active in terms of peer-to-peer trading, at least on Hodl Hodl. So these are the main trends that we saw the shift when we launched Hodl Hodl. Most of the trades was Europe, and now it's more emerging markets. And we actually had some trades from Australia as well. So and we are trying now to approach Asian market, of course, and because it's huge and big, and we're also looking to Africa as well because it's also emerging market, and interestingly enough, people are using cryptocurrency there as well, and they're quite active in that field, to be honest. So yeah, but maybe Roma can speak more about why we closed U.S. market. It's interesting story.
Well, yeah, apart from like regulatory burden, I think the market is just saturated, right? If people want to buy Bitcoins in the U.S., there's so many different options. And yeah, you got to go through KYC and ML there, but that's just the reality of things. And, we're just not interested. I would say that. We're just not interested in the U.S. market because we realize there's a lot of competition there. There's a lot of good, great companies operating on it, and people are familiar with them. So, I mean, why bother?
And also to add to the trends that we saw during the past year, the average volume of single trade actually increased because we know that some of the traders, they use Hodl Hodl due to security reasons, due to safe and secure escrow, non-custodial escrow that we have. They use us to trade larger volumes than on centralized exchanges or on exchanges that don't have this non-custodial approach. So the average volume for each single trade is actually increased. And in terms of payment methods, I think still the most popular payment methods is usually the banks. So people do that. We introduced, like a few months ago, we also introduced like cryptocurrency as a payment method. So now using Hodl Hodl, you can pay for your Bitcoin with basically any cryptocurrency available out there. So you can use Monero, you can use Ethereum, whatever. And these payment methods are also increasing in the last couple of months. So
it's not like we're trying to capitalize on shitcoins. I mean, I'm not a big fan of those.
Yeah,
people sometimes want to buy and sell those. That's understandable. So it wasn't a lot of work for us to add them as a payment method. They're not integrated into the exchange natively, right? So we don't track Ethereum blockchain or Monero or anything. Just they're just payment methods, just like any other. So we added them. We've seen a couple of trades with them. Okay, that's fine.
Got it. Yeah, so I suppose then it's just on the customer who is accepting the payment to do their own verification in that case, rather than sort of trusting the exchange to verify for them or anything like that.
Yeah. And in case of a dispute, it's pretty easy for us to verify whether there was a transaction that was made on Ethereum, let's say, right? I mean, because it's a public blockchain. So we don't see a lot of issues with that.
You guys also recently launched this prediction market. Can you talk to that?
We didn't launch it actually. We just announced it. So we will launch it in couple months. But yeah, we announced the predictions, and in that case, I need to say that Roma should speak about predictions because it's his idea and it's his child, so he knows better in that case.
Well, let's just say it was a soft launch. I think, but we're pretty confident that, there's a lot of work already that has been done on predictions, and it's definitely coming, and definitely see a lot of interest because if you look at crypto Twitter, there's always people there who say, "Hey, I want to bet you one Bitcoin that the price of Bitcoin is going to be above like 5,000." But I want to point out, predictions are not betting. To be honest, it's not gambling. And in the blog post that we released, we explained why. I'm just going to touch briefly on that. Betting or gambling, it has those interesting characteristics, such as it's instant gratification. You throw dice, you either win or lose, or you go with like a ridiculous margin on BitMEX, and you also lose or win pretty instantly. And then there's an addiction part to it. There's randomness to it as well, and we just don't want to touch it at all. What we want to do, we want to build a financial instrument that people can actually employ to hedge their risks, and come up with other use cases for it. But it's definitely not gambling. So the way it would work is you create an offer, and you say, "I believe that the price of Bitcoin is going to be above $5,000 on Bitstamp by May 1st, 12 p.m., for example," right? So your condition is pretty unambiguous. So you create this offer, and this other person sees it on the website and decides to create a contract with you based on this offer. And so he also he creates the contract. You see that, and you both lock the Bitcoins. And by May 1st, you check the condition, and one of you gets 2 Bitcoins, and the other one loses his 1 Bitcoin. So that's the simplest case of how predictions can be used. But of course, you can your condition can be pretty much anything that's not illegal or ambiguous.
Okay, great. And then does Hodl Hodl have to go and help verify the claim?
In most cases, we believe that we wouldn't have to do that because there's no incentive for any of the party, especially for the losing party, to not release the Bitcoins in favor of the winning party. And the reason for that is because the winning party would never sign the refund transaction to the losing party, right? So the worst case, the Bitcoins are going to stay locked in escrow. Now, in that case, Hodl Hodl would interfere because we would use 2 out of 3 multi-sig, and we would still hold this other key. And so we would go and look for the condition, and then sign that transaction. But I expect that people would be pretty compliant because they wouldn't want to lose their reputation, because they still want to continue trading on the exchange and on the predictions project. So I don't see a lot of issues with that, especially if the conditions are unambiguous. And that's one thing that we're going to do. We're going to moderate the offers before they even appear on the exchange, and make sure that nothing illegal is in the conditions, and that conditions are unambiguous.
So the other thing is people talk about with prediction markets is this whole idea of, oh, these decentralized, this, that, and the other. I think by using a more centralized approach, it's perhaps a bit more of a long-term sustainable one. And I think the other concern people had with some of the other approaches that have been done in the past, there might be that, there's not really much volume, so to speak.
Well, so first of all, I completely agree with you that a decentralized approach that Augur uses, for example, may not be the ideal solution in that case. We believe that our solution, where we are as an exchange, are centralized, but we're also non-custodial, is a good one. And that's just how it is. I think we're non-custodial and centralized, and that allows us to be effective but also secure.
Yeah, another point I like about it is that you are leveraging people's reputation. So they may have built up a reputation on a certain name on the Hodl Hodl exchange, and that is the reputation that they then put at stake when they try to, enter into some kind of prediction bet.
Yeah, of course, there's going to be reputation, and if you want to trade with someone, you rely on that as well. But I want to come back briefly to the point that you made about the volume that I do see some people complain about volumes in Hodl Hodl in particular countries. For example, they go to Zimbabwe on the website and like, oh, there are no offers. Well, create one. It's not like it's a centralized day trading exchange, right? You don't need your order book field before you can start before you create an offer. And it's the same thing with predictions. You just create an offer and it's there. Now you just gotta wait a little bit for someone to notice it and create a contract based on that offer. So I don't think for peer-to-peer exchanges, volume or lack thereof is a chicken and egg problem. It's not. You just go there and you create an offer.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. I think many users are naturally lazy. So they go somewhere and they kind of expect there to be volume there already. And to some extent, maybe current exchanges use market makers to kind of have somebody there putting a bit of that volume just to kind of make it flow more easily. So perhaps that's a bit of a learning journey and a bit of a UI UX question as well on how to guide the customer down that pathway such that they are then guided into, if there is no offer, to create one.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, you guys recently had your 1-year anniversary. Tell us a little bit about that, Max.
Well, we didn't celebrate it, basically. Yeah, because our team is, we don't have any office or premises where everyone, all gathers and we work remotely. We used to that. We're basically distributed globally. So there was nothing special about that. I think the part of our birthday celebration was that we announced prediction markets. I think the best way to celebrate your own birthday in terms of for foreign Bitcoin company is to announce another product that you just you're developing and doing something and building. So so about the birthday, really like nothing special. I had a glass of wine, so something like that. So we actually have a lot of work to do, like extremely a lot of work to do, because we have predictions coming in. We have also a project called House Hodl, which is buying and selling real estate using the same smart escrow, smart contract functionality that we have at the moment in Hodl Hodl. We have Honeybadger conference that we announced a few weeks ago, and a lot of things. We're also traveling quite a lot, speaking on different conferences. We've been invited to do workshops, and so. In terms of celebrating or having a team together, we're not that type of company. We prefer building stuff and not like making an announcement of announcements and announcements that we will do something or writing blog posts each time. So no, we will build stuff. We will do that.
Great. Yeah. And Max, I think another area that might be good to get further comments from you is just for those listeners who are more privacy conscious and they want to buy Bitcoin and do it in a way that helps preserve their privacy. Can you comment a little on how other exchanges may, when they start, they may sort of develop in ways that creep the AML forward, whereas that might contrast with Hodl Hodl?
Yeah, so we don't do KYC/AML, as Roma mentioned. Well, you can pass the KYC/AML to increase some limits on Hodl Hodl if you want, but in general we don't do that because we don't hold any funds, so we don't process. We're not acting as a third party who process like crypto or fiat or something like that. While on other exchanges you need to like go through the verification process. So there's two things that usually concerns people and that actually concerns me. So first of all, you do disclose your personal data, which is, in my humble opinion, not so good, because you don't know how it's stored, because you don't know how it's. And recently, there has been few cases when there was like security breaches where the data was stolen. Not Bitcoins in particular, but data. And the second thing is if you pass the verification, it usually takes time. So the onboarding process becomes difficult. And what we saw during the bull market in the end of 2017, in the beginning 2018, where big centralized exchanges were struggling by onboarding new clients and replying to old clients because just the inflow of people was crazy and they were unable to process everyone. So I think that's two main things.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, that you don't have to take on the same level of cost that some of the other exchanges do because they're spending all this time and resource on AML compliance, whereas in some other ways, you can spend your time building more products that your customers will enjoy.
Yeah, that's our competitive advantage, at least for a moment. You never know what the government or other involved parties will think about and will create about. So
another thing, Max, that might be interesting to comment on, and I think you were just touching on that there, is how we don't know what the government can do, and it can sort of creep forward, right? There can be other Bitcoin and other, multi-coin companies, let's say, who start out a certain way, but then they now put in more AML and put in more KYC, and then there are some customers who might feel a little trapped by that because they might have put some Bitcoin on that exchange or that service, and then they put in more KYC and say, no, you can't take it out until we KYC you.
Yeah, these cases are so not. It's happening actually already at the moment. So the case with Hodl Hodl, we won't be able if you will start a trade on Hodl Hodl and you will put money on escrow. As Roma mentioned, we only have one key out of three. So even if we want, if you will discuss this and agree that you want to release coins in favor of your counterparty, then you will do that easily because your counterparty and you have two keys together. So if we want, we won't be able to do that. So we won't be able to freeze your funds. But these cases are happening when companies are onboarding people and saying we don't have any KYC/AML and blah blah blah, and then at some point they will send you a letter that we need to check up on you. So please send me some information. Please pass the verification, and then you will be able to receive your coins or send your Bitcoins to any other address.
Yeah, right. And another thing that's interesting, I've noticed, I think your exchange supports the BEC32 addresses. And my understanding is that actually is a little bit easier than if someone wants to, say, buy Bitcoin on Hodl Hodl and then move that straight into Wasabi, because there are other exchanges that don't support that kind of withdrawal address. So that's another benefit there for Hodl Hodl.
I definitely, I noticed the Bitstamp doesn't. For example, although it claims to have SegWit support, when I paste BEC32 address, it doesn't really work. And in our case, it definitely works. So, and because of that, transaction fees are also not as
slightly lower, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I think the last question on the exchange I wanted to ask you guys was a bit of an open question. Can it be made simpler?
Of course it can. As we say, there's no limit for perfection, you know. It's not perfect.
As our old boss used to say, I have just the guy for that.
Yeah, so peer-to-peer exchanges in general are way more complicated than centralized exchanges. But that's basically, it's a trade-off. Whether you want better security and less KYC/ML, or you want better usability, less security, and more KYC/ML. So it's a trade-off. It's always a trade-off. But yeah, we are actually working constantly on redesigning some things, on adding new features, on that Roma mentioned that we have a special guy who is creating a screencasts on different topics: how to use Hodl Hodl, how to install Electrum Wallet. We have a huge section of guides and helps, a lot of things. Also, we have a Bitcoin quiz where you can test your knowledge on the Bitcoin and on topics that goes around that. So, but yeah, in general, Hodl Hodl is not perfect, and we think there is a long way to go to create a proper peer-to-peer exchange when even my grandmother would be able to go online and buy some fraction of Bitcoin, or hopefully she will be rich enough to buy a single Bitcoin. Why not?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I think for the grandmother that's just not going to happen. My personal opinion, though, but certainly, like when you work on exchanges, on peer-to-peer exchange, you as an engineer, I tend to sort of arrange everything correctly in my mind, right, and in code. But then when you realize how that actually works in terms of user interaction, then you think, whoa, that's actually complicated. I shouldn't have done that. We can actually simplify that. So there are things like that we can definitely improve. But as Max said, I think peer-to-peer exchanges are inherently more complicated than regular, traditional, centralized exchanges. So for some things, there's just no way around the complexity.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's an interesting question, and I think everyone is trying to figure out ways to try and make it easier to bring on the next wave of people and how to teach them, but do it in the right way. So these are things I think most Bitcoiners are thinking about. But yeah, look, I think let's now turn to talking about Baltic Honeybadger. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, it will be 3rd edition. You will join us as well. At least you're listed as a speaker, and we hope that you won't refuse to come.
That's right. That's right.
Funny thing. Last year we had few speakers that actually were listed on the web page, and they were announced.
But they actually reached out themselves.
Yeah, and one of them reached out by himself. Like, guys, I want to to speak at your conference, and we actually included him, but then he refused to come.
Well, no hard feelings. I mean, things happen. We understand. It's just that it's always sad.
No hard feelings. But I won't invite him anymore to any conference that I organize. But in overall, no hard feelings. Yes. So about the Honeybadger, third year in a row. To be honest, when we first started thinking about organizing this event, I wasn't actually even thinking that it will be that big and the success of it will be that big. And I'm not trying to say that we are doing something extraordinary, but I think we're doing a good job here, and we were surprised after the first year how the people reacted to that, because at that point everyone around was speaking about ICO. It was the end of 2017. All conferences that was filled with ICO, altcoins, all the blockchain hype, and we just thought, well, we need to create a proper Bitcoin conference that will focus on Bitcoin. And in the long term, it appears that we had a proper strategy.
Yeah, look, and you've got a really great speaker lineup. I mean, just looking on your website here, you've got people like Jimmy Song, Peter Todd, Alex Bosworth, Tone Vase, Pierre Richard, Jameson Lopp, Dr. Adam Back. Giacomo will be there. Tell us a little bit about who you're excited to see.
We try to actually each year we try to we try to create something different out of the previous year. So we don't like when the same face is coming, and although we usually invite also some same people. But they are doing a bit different stuff that they are doing previously. So I'm actually excited to see and to see the presentation of Jimmy Song, because I was speaking last year in Prague on the Hackers Congress, and Jimmy was speaking there as well, and he had a really amazing presentation on. Not the technical part of the Bitcoin, but more into social, economical, and basically how the Bitcoin will save us, something like that. But it was like amazing talk, and I'm excited to see him. And also, well, I don't know, maybe Roma can add who is he excited for.
Well, I really like that. Especially this year, we have a lot of new faces who are not necessarily very famous in the crypto community, but they definitely have made an impact. So we have guys from BTC Pay Server and OpenNote. Both are payment processors. They're slightly different. OpenNote is kind of a centralized service that charges fees, whereas BTC Pay is an open source project. But it's going to be a lot of fun to have a panel. And discuss payment processors. And we have a Paxful founder. We hope to see some other exchanges. I can't really talk about it right now, but we hope to have more exchange founders and executives this year. And just in general, it's really exciting to give an opportunity to speak to people who are not necessarily famous, but who really, really do important things in the community. And this year, in that particular thing, is just going to be great.
Yeah, and we are actually trying to get Jack Dorsey second year in a row. I know that. Yeah, I know that you were happy enough to have him on your podcast. So, Jack, it's like the last attempt maybe for us, but if you're listening this, please come to Honeybadger. You will enjoy it.
I think I sort of realize. I mean, for Jack to come to a conference, it's just there is a chance it's going to be a shit show because everybody's going to come to see Jack, and everybody's going to come and pay attention to Jack, and it's going to be awkward and weird. But maybe like if if he listens to that and decides to come, maybe we can come up with a way in which it's actually okay. I don't know. It would be nice to have someone who has a lot of influence outside of the Bitcoin community to speak about Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, I totally understand why Jack would be reluctant to go to conferences like ours.
Yeah, like Latvia is too far away from US. Maybe because of that. I don't know. And it's a bit cold in September out there. But in general, speaking about the Honeybadger, if I may add, we're always trying to bring people. Rome already mentioned who are building stuff actually. So yeah, he already mentioned BTC Pay server guys, OpenNote, Wasabi wallet, Adam will be there as well. So people who are Casa Hodl guys will be there. We're always trying to bring people who are actually doing something, not speaking on the conferences, literally the faces that you see always, but doing something useful to promote Bitcoin and to increase adoption, to create a proper infrastructure. And the second thing that we are trying to bring people from different sectors of Bitcoin economy, like VCs, OTC traders, developers, CEOs of the companies, hardware wallet companies, software wallet companies, whatever, name it. So we are trying to do what we are trying to achieve with Honeybadger, that there are participants from different sectors of Bitcoin ecosystem, that it will be interesting for anyone, whether you are a developer, whether you are a broker, or whether you are a journalist, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, fascinating. And now, can you just tell us a little bit about what is the typical audience and who should come?
Well, usually we see a lot of people, we see a lot of technical people out there. But last year there was also a lot of business developers and actually amount of people who are just willing to learn something new or willing to learn about the Bitcoin also increased. So in general, I think that there's like 60-70% of people coming to Honeybadger are technical people, developers, coders, hackers as well, and 40-30% are business developers, traders, and journalists.
Well, we definitely have a very loyal customer base. I mean, we have a Telegram channel where everybody hangs out, and as soon as we launch sales this year, the early bird tickets were sold in a couple of days, maybe even in a day. I don't remember. So there are definitely people who love the conference just for what it is, and they would come this year and next year, and there's definitely a very, very loyal user base. I'm not sure whether they're all engineers, probably not, but it's just really exciting to see people being excited about the conference.
And there's actually a very important part about Honeybadger, that there's a lot of networking happening during the conference and around the conference.
And it's not like everybody's pitching their own project to
just people just meeting each other, discussing interesting topics.
I haven't had a single person come up to me and try to pitch something. I had that at other conferences, and I haven't heard that anybody pitched anything like that to anybody else. So
maybe because you're not staying for the whole day. But I saw that, I heard that on Honeybadger. Cool. Overall, it's we're trying to make it like non-commercial event where you go and you don't see that people are pitching their project from the stage, and you paid money for that. So
Well, let's just put it this way: it happens to you then, okay?
yeah, it happens to me. All the bad stuff happens to me usually. Um, yeah, we're trying to make it we're trying to make Honeybadger educational and networking event. And I know that some people are actually coming to Riga not because they want to listen to presentations or listen to panels, which are amazing, by the way, but they're coming because of the spirit, because they want to hang out with people who are as much as they're fascinated with Bitcoin, and they're just wanting to have a good time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, personally, I really regretted not coming last year. I thought about it, but I couldn't make it work, and just it was difficult. But I'm very happy that I'm coming this year, and hopefully I'll get to either maybe host a panel or whatever. But I'll get to participate in some way and get to meet a lot of the faces and people who I've seen on Bitcoin Twitter, but I just haven't actually met in person yet. So really excited for that personally. So tell us some of the logistical details. When is it? It's in September, and just some of those details on where people can go to sign up and find it.
It's 14. Well, we have a website, bh2019.hodlhodl.com. You can go there. You can check it out.
BH stands for Baltic Honeybadger, so it's BH 2019.
Yeah, so you can check out the speakers. Some of the speakers are not announced yet, so we have some big names also coming in as well. And you can go and buy ticket for Honeybadger on the website. At the moment, we only sell tickets for Bitcoin. In the end of the March, we will add an opportunity to buy with fiat, so with payment cards, something like that. About the logistics, well, the conference days will be 14-15 September, Riga, Latvia. Riga is a small city, so there's no need to say something special about the logistics. You just fly in, take a cab, and in 15 minutes you are in the city center. That's it. And so the premises of the conference is actually 15-20 minutes walk from the city center.
You don't even have to take a cab. It doesn't matter. You can just walk.
Yeah, you can just walk, especially if the weather is good. So you can just walk. But if you want to take a cab from the city center to premises, it will take like 5 minutes, and it will cost you like €5, something like that. So it's quite cheap and fast. So
okay, that's great.
There's no problem with that. Yeah, we also I wanted to specify. We also will have. Last year we tested this idea. This year we will have like food court on the street in front of the conference, on the backyard actually. We will have a great after party also on the backyard, and we will have 2 buildings. One building will be where all the main stuff happening. The second building will be used for meetings and maybe some chill out and something like that. So yeah, it will be. I hope that the weather will be nice and everyone will be able to enjoy this.
All right. Looks like we're coming to time on the time allocated. Maybe you just want to give us a last few closing thoughts on why people should consider using Hodl Hodl to buy Bitcoin with or sell Bitcoin with.
So to sum it up, I think lower fees, non-custodial, which means we don't hold the Bitcoins, and that in turn means that even if we're hacked in some way, the Bitcoins are going to be safe. And so lower fees, non-custodial, no KYC, ML, those are the major reasons to use Hodl Hodl. And of course, the new prediction market is coming very soon, and there's nothing like it as far as I can tell on the market. So I hope it's going to be exciting for many, many people to try it out.
Fantastic. And can you guys just tell the listeners where they can follow you and where they can find Hodl Hodl, obviously?
We're quite active in Twitter, of course. So in Twitter, it's simple at Hodl Hodl. And my personal Twitter account is Keidun M. And Roman's is Roman Snitko, as far as I
correct,
remember.
at Roman Snitko.
Excellent. Well, I'll put the links in the show notes, but it's always nice to just read it out for the listeners as well. So, all right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Max and Roman.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for having us.
Thanks a lot, and see you in Riga.
So do consider getting a ticket to Baltic Honeybadger. I think it'll be an awesome time in September this year. It's really one of the memorable conferences of the Bitcoin calendar year, and it really gets a good crowd with a real community feel rather than the ICO, altcoin, and blockchain shillfests. Also, just as a quick community announcement, you should also check out the Boltathon, which is the world's first virtual Lightning Network conference and hackathon. So hackers sign up and build and vote on your favorite projects for a chance to win some BTC. And if you're not a dev, not to worry, you can still participate by attending the online sessions featuring previous podcast guests such as Rusty Russell and Pierre Richard. There'll also be other speakers such as Alex Bosworth, Lightning Koala, and Rockstar Dev. This will be held on April 5th through to the 7th, and all the payments will be received through Lightning Bitcoin. And because it's online, it's super cheap. It's something like $10 US worth of Bitcoin. So come check out the Lightning Revolution at boltathon.com. So there you go, guys. Get amongst it. Get more involved in the Bitcoin and Lightning community by attending Boltathon and Baltic Honeybadger. As usual, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast. Show notes are on my website, stephanlivera.com. Thanks, guys. See you next time.